Hello, good evening. I am going to record a little Q&A sesh because I got some really good questions via email for the Becoming Circle that I wanted to share with all of you. And I already recorded a video today, so I'm a little tired, but I think these are important questions, so let's get started. The two questions I got, well, I'll tell you them one by one, and they're also in the description below. So the first one is, how do I set goals when priorities and directions shift quickly, especially in a highly dynamic and team-based professional environment? And I want to say here that it really depends on the context of the work and the team, of course. But verbal communication skills are going to be very, very, very important in your leadership here. And one of the most important, my daughter's had a long day and she's going to bed. There's a lot of crying happening. So one of those verbal communication skills that you want to hone is context. You want to speak to who, what, why, where for all these goals, and how long you're doing a thing, what the deadline is, things like that. And when goals shift, you want to make the implicit explicit. So what comes to mind is I used to work in corporate for a really long time, and I worked on a very dynamic team environment. And when quarterly goals would shift, I would always go back to my performance review and look at what we had agreed. I'm so distracted because she's screaming. I would look at what, this is really driving me nuts. Okay, I would go back to what my previous performance reviews said, and I would see what I had agreed to, what goals had I already agreed to, and what would I not be able to do now that the goals had shifted. And you have to be discerning about when you bring this to your supervisor or your team members, because sometimes it's not always prudent in the moment, but go back to, who's going to be doing your next performance review and just make it clear. This is all going to shift around and we're moving this here and that will happen next quarter, et cetera, et cetera. So make the implicit explicit. Also, a really good trick is to make it visual if possible. And sometimes it's happening on the fly, so you might not be able to make it visual, but if you are looking at more long-ish term goals, you want people on the team to be able to see that the goals are changing. And there's two ways I thought of to do this. One would be having a whiteboard and shifting, the goal for the day. Maybe if it's that quick, the goal for the week or whatever it is, cross it out and write the new goal. So that people can see that it's changing and what they're orienting to now. Another really great trick that's better for if longer term goals are going to be changing. So for example, I use this for a web design project or different large deliverables. So you get a big board. It's a whiteboard. And it says, I'll try to do it so it would say, is this the way? Right to left. Well, I'm going to do it my way. I think it would be this way for you. So it would say, in progress. No, it would say on deck. That's things that are waiting. In progress, things that you're working on, the team is working on. And then completed. And then beneath those headers, you're going to have Post-it notes of every task that needs to get done. And as each task is moving along, you're moving it to the appropriate category. This is a really, really helpful tool for project management. And it also just helps everyone, including the supervisors and the team, see where things are at. and you can also cross things out on the Post-it. I really prefer these visual things in a visual environment. And, the workplace, it might be different for some people. So you want to do this in a spreadsheet and have it really available and reference it frequently in your communications. The next question is, I'm also interested in the intersection between personal development and career development, how to most effectively identify which skills and traits to enhance for an integrated self. I used to struggle with this a lot in my professional life. So when you are an integrated and whole self, you're bringing all of yourself to every part of your life, including your work life. And that doesn't mean breaking down and sobbing at work, but it does mean being vulnerable and bringing those vulnerable parts of yourself sometimes. And Brene Brown has an excellent podcast on this. I'll try to find a link to it, and maybe I'll put it in the description if I can change the description after this video. So she talks about vulnerability in leadership and the workplace and how it makes things better. It makes everything better because there's more transparency. People know what's going on. There's no distortion in the field because people are connected with their truth cord, to use a shamanic term. And what it means is bringing skill, learning those communication skills that are necessary for this kind of leadership. And some of those skills would be owning your experience, skillfully owning your experience. And that means speaking in ownership language. I noticed XYZ. I felt XYZ. My experience was XYZ. And not projecting in our language on others. And also revealing our experience, not keeping it all locked up. Revealing how it felt, how it was, what the experience was like for you in your body and in your self. And then being in relationship with your colleagues about that. What is it like to hear that? What's the impact for you to hear that coming from me? And so these communication skills are communication skills of a priestess, which I will be teaching in the mystery school. The context, the revealing, the owning, these are all parts of that communications training that it's a leadership training that I will be sharing in the mystery school. And I'm just looking at my notes. All right, so those are the communication skills. Another piece of that integrated self, that intersection between personal development and career development, is know thyself. And this is what we teach in the mystery school, right? Know thyself. Know your gifts, know your superpowers, know your kryptonite. Because you cannot wield the gifts that you have if you are not aware of them. You cannot integrate the parts of yourself that you are not aware of. And there are so many avenues to know thyself, and it's a never-ending lifelong process, right? It's just a process of growth and understanding and unfolding and blossoming. I found that one of the fastest way to get there, to know myself, is through layering astrology with human design with the gene keys overlaid on one another. And I'm also teaching about that in the mystery school. I'm working on the curriculum for that right now. This is a contemplation practice, working with the different parts of yourself. And this is called parts work, getting to know the different parts of yourself. So we all have maybe hundreds of parts of ourselves within us that want different things. Like right now, I want to go to sleep. I want to go snuggle with my daughter. I want to get a glass of water. I want to keep talking to you. They're all these parts wanting conflicting things, aware of conflicting things, and not always conflicting, but sometimes in a lot of conflict. So we have all of these parts of ourselves that want to be integrated, that want to be heard. And they can be young parts. They can be our little girl. They can be older parts. They can be managerial parts that manage this part and this part. So we want to sit with those and ask them what they're desiring, what they're aware of, and welcoming them. That's an important part, is welcoming the different parts. That's a big step in integration and wholeness. Parts work can be really deep and contemplative work, and it really supports wellness. So I invite you to sit with that, sit with those different parts. It does take some silence, sitting in silence and connection with self. So a lot of these tools that I've mentioned are going to create a more self-awareness, more self-acceptance, and more emotional intelligence. I think when we work with these communication skills, especially in a leadership context, it can open up our emotional intelligence in a really big way. And I think that's all I have for you. So that's the end of the questions, and I'll always take questions and that come in through my email. And if they're really good questions that I want to share with you, I will do a live. So I hope you enjoyed this, and email me a question if you have one. Talk to you soon.